We love when news breaks because it's urgent. Fans love it. Yeah. Breaking news. And we're in that business. So 30 seconds ago, breaking news on Deshaun Watson.
Big. Deshaun Watson suspended 11 games, Colin. $5 million fine, as Shannon Sharp just said, the largest ever levied against a player. Yeah. And a lot of questions now for your Cleveland Browns, and Jacoby Brissett heading into the season.
All right, so let's start with that. According to various sources, this happened, folks, about a minute ago. The NFL and the NFLPA, there's going to be no lawsuit. They're agreeing to this, and this is how agreements go. You negotiate. You get some stuff you want, I get some stuff I want. So when the 6-game suspension came out, Sue Robinson, right, the former, judge, many people speculated. Many people were speculating before she rendered a 6-game suspension, Deshaun may get none. Go back and look. There were those in the legal profession that said she was looking at the evidence and where was the criminal behavior? Remember, there were no civil suits, right? So then it's 6 games. When that came down, I said I'd double it to 12. 6 games for the preponderance of evidence of unethical behavior, and then I would double it for lying. He's never been upfront about it. And so they have agreed to 11 games. Now, Roger Goodell wanted the season, but in negotiations, you don't get everything you want. Deshaun Watson's camp was very happy with 6. Remember Deshaun Watson's camp in the NFLPA when he got 6 games? You remember their reaction? They were very favorable. Did not argue it. Very satisfied. Why? Because they knew it was light. So Goodell comes in strong, calls it predatory. He's furious, basically saying, we're going to give this another go-around with another former retired attorney general in New Jersey who has a connection to the NFL. And so we were all kind of waiting for that, right? Well, during this process, the NFL, Goodell, and the NFLPA have been negotiating. And they have reached 11 games and a $5 million fine. Now, again, that's a big fine. I mean, that's the largest fine I've ever heard for a player. I mean, $1 million fine is a 7-figure fine, gigantic. A $5 million fine is a lot of money. I don't know. I'm sure there's been an owner. Off the top of my head, I'm sure there's been an owner $5 million or more. But for a player to get $5 million fine, that's $10 million in real money, right? So you got to give him $5 million cash. So it's 11 games. Listen, they're not going to go get Garoppolo, I would imagine. They're going to go with Jacoby Brissett. He's been in the system now. He's got the coaches. This 11 games, he'll come back. His first game back would be Week 13 against Houston. So let's look at the games. So Week 13, you're going to get at Houston, at Cincinnati, Baltimore Saints, Washington, Pittsburgh. Those games outside of Pittsburgh, Cincy, are probably winnable with Jacoby Brissett. But you're not going to get him against the Chargers and Justin Herbert. You're not going to get him against Mack and the Patriots. You're not going to get him against Lamar and Burrow the first time. You're not going to get him with Tua and the weapons or Josh Allen or Tom Brady. So it says here, I'm being told it's 11 games and the first game is Week 13. So the NFL, remember, there was a lot of talk it would be 12 games. My guess is they didn't want Deshaun on the field with Tom Brady, who is the biggest brand in the NFL. They didn't want Deshaun Watson anywhere near a Tom Brady game. Nowhere near Tom Brady. Tom Brady doesn't want Deshaun Watson anywhere near his brand. So the NFL, I think today, is satisfied with, go to Houston. There's your first game. But most of the great quarterbacks they face are in those first 10, 11, 12 weeks. Not going to have him with Brady. Not going to have him Josh Allen. Not going to have him the first time with Lamar and Burrow. Not going to have Justin Herbert. So certainly not going to have him Week 1 against Baker Mayfield. So there you go. I think, I don't think Cleveland in that division. I think Cincinnati's really good. Baltimore's really good. And I don't know how good Kenny Pickett's going to be or the quarterback situation, but Pittsburgh's got a lot of talent and no chaos and all sorts of playmakers on both sides of the ball. So it feels like, to me, this is a fourth-place team. And that's by the way, I got no problem with it. That's the price you pay for rewarding really bad behavior. And it's not just that Cleveland gave him a contract. It's not just that. They gave him the only fully guaranteed contract that I remember in NFL history. $230-some million fully guaranteed. It infuriated the other owners. You see stuff in baseball, 10-year contracts, in the NBA, a lot of fully guaranteed. You just don't do that in the NFL. So Jimmy Haslam curried no favor with any of these owners. So nobody in the ownership group was rooting for Cleveland. Jerry Jones years ago pushed back on the NFL when Zeke got, like a 6-game suspension for bad behavior. Jerry has a lot of allies in NFL owners. He's made the league a lot of money. He's made a lot of owners a lot of money. His best friend in the league is Stan Kroenke, who owns the Rams. I think he's the richest owner in the NFL. He's the one that got Stan Kroenke in the NFL to go to Vegas, which has been a home run, to go to Los Angeles, which has been a home run. Jerry Jones has a lot of fans in the NFL. He's made a lot of people money. And Jerry tried to get Goodell fired, reportedly. It didn't work. So in this instance, this was a different situation, but very similar to a Donald Sterling, where none of the owners were backing Sterling. Adam Silver walked in, get out of here. None of the owners are backing the Haslams here, right? Especially teams with them on the schedule. But that fully guaranteed contract felt like you're rewarding really predatory behavior. So some people won't like it. Some will. People can gripe. But the NFL and the NFLPA have reached a settlement. So I would imagine you're not going to get a lawsuit. I'm not an attorney. But 11 games, a massive $5 million fine. And he'll return week 13 against Houston. But I think at that point, Cleveland will pretty much be toast. That is kind of my guess. So that's our story this morning. Cleveland's bye is in week 9. Didn't get a break there either. Well, I think when it came out at 6, we said it feels light. So they kind of doubled it. Basically doubled it. And so I think people that are realistic about this stuff, like they're going to people that are just outraged that he's ever playing a game. Folks, they're called negotiations. You know, you don't get everything you want in negotiations. The NFL probably didn't want a lawsuit. The NFLPA doesn't have a track record of winning a lot of lawsuits against the Shield. They probably didn't want it either. So a couple days ago, I think I said on the air a couple days ago, when Deshaun Watson and his camp had said, okay, we'll take an 8-game fine from 6 and $5 million. I asked somebody, I forget who it was on the set, that feels like they'd go to 10. So they got 6, and then it was 6 for a week. Goodell was furious, right? Goodell's like, it's predatory. So Goodell throws it out there. This is not enough. He's telling his sponsors that, his fans that, the women who love the NFL that. He's telling other owners. Goodell sent the message out, the bat signal. This is not enough. Didn't hear a thing for a few days. Then, a few days later, Watson and his camp are like, okay, we'll take 8 games and a $5 million fine. And I remember asking somebody, and I forget who it was, that feels like they're willing to go to 10. So they went to 11. And so I imagine Watson moved and his camp moved to 10 pretty quick. The NFL was like 12 or nothing, because we had heard reports the NFL wanted 12 or the season. So Watson agreed to 8, which means he'd take 10. The NFL wanted 12 of the season, and they meet at 11. That's what it feels like happened. And that's the way many of you, I'm sure, listening or watching, have been in negotiations. You've had an attorney for something. It could be for a million different things. And you negotiate. You get this, I get that. The NFL wanted 12 of the season. Deshaun willing to take 8. They meet at 11. And it does feel, and this is appropriately, like it kind of dooms the season. I don't think you should be rewarded for a fully guaranteed contract for somebody with really sketchy, ugly, predatory behavior.